Hello keyboard fans, it's time we talk about the Hyper7, this beautiful big heavy boy right here. But before we talk about the keyboard, I know there's a lot of people eagerly waiting group buy news, and we have a couple of announcements. First announcement, we have a launch date. This Friday, 27th of October, 2 p.m. British summertime, it will go live and you can buy it. That should be only a couple days after this video, so very, very soon. And we are going to aim to ship it in February 2024. I say aim to ship it in February because it's a group buy. There's always delays. All it takes is for one component to get delayed and it delays the whole thing. But that's our target. If you want any information, just pop into the Discord, send us a ticket. We'll happily, update you on the progress of the Hyper7. The second announcement is that for this run, we're only going to do 500 units. Why 500? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, this thing's so big and heavy that logistically it's a nightmare to ship and to store. And I mean, our warehouse isn't that big. As you can see, it's more of a glorified office than a warehouse. We're not even on the ground floor, we're on the first floor. So we're gonna have to carry 500 of these things up the stairs, store them, package them, build them here, carry them down the stairs and ship them. And it's just gonna be very difficult. So we've set ourselves a limit that we know we can handle, and that's 500. The second reason is that we have about 1,000 people signed up, and usually 50% of sign-ups turn into sales. So everyone who wants one should be able to get one. But don't wait too long with your order. It won't sell out within the first month, but as we have a limit, it will eventually sell out. We have a couple of videos coming out from some bigger YouTubers in the second and third month of the group buy. That will probably be when it goes. So, don't wait too long, but you don't have to panic buy. The first month should be completely safe. Save up if you need to save up. It is an expensive keyboard. That's all the group buy news. Now let's actually talk about the product itself. So for those who don't know, this is the Hyper7. It is big, it is beautiful. It's the only 173% keyboard in the world. It was originally designed by Jay from Prototypist. It was supposed to be a tribute to the old Space Cadet keyboard from 30 or 40 years ago, but over the years it became its own thing. Jay did a couple runs of it and then handed it over to us. It's a difficult product to sell because it is big, because it's expensive. There's only a few units that sell, and as a result, it just becomes quite cumbersome to deal with. But we love selling it. This is going to be our second time selling it, and it's always the coolest thing we sell. Now, for this run, there are a few changes from the last time. Firstly, the case. It now has a big, beautiful, enclosed case. It's still bent stainless steel, but it also has a handle, and it's a big old unit. Now, we are still selling the plate case from the last run. So if you would like, something a bit more economical that still has the layout and the functionality, but without any, additional cost, the plate case is still available. But if you want a nice big unit, we now have the enclosed case. They come in black, industrial grey, and cream. You can also get it in its just stainless steel state without any powder coating. It is brushed, but the finish is quite rough. So if you want a rough industrial look, the stainless steel is really good. But if you want something cleaner and smoother and a bit more clean, go for one of the colors, the black, the gray, or the cream. Along with the case, we've now also got a second layout. So this right here is the classic standard Hyper7 layout. We're going to call it the classic layout. But quite a lot of people had a few issues with it. So you'll notice that it's uniform, it's mirrored. It does this by having a consistent stagger across the core of the keyboard. Now that's not usual for a keyboard, so it's a bit difficult to get used to. Your muscle memory will be out a bit, and it's really difficult to game with because your hands are at a much more severe angle. This layout also has this broken up bottom row, and a lot of people were requesting a nice big chunky space bar. So we created a new layout to go alongside this, and it's called the modern layout. It fixes this stagger here, and it has a big chunky 7U spacebar. We don't have a prototype, so I'll just put an image on the screen and you can have a look for yourself. So it's got a nice new case and it's got a nice new layout. Make sure you pick the right layout. It's an expensive keyboard to send back if you want to change layout, and it's not a universal PCB, so there's 2 PCBs and 2 plates. Have a real long consideration about what layout is right for you. If you're unsure, just go for the modern one. It's the most easy one to get used to. Along with the layout changes, it's now also hot swap. There's 200 switches, depending on what layout you want, there's 200 switches to put in this thing. You don't want to be soldering them. It's hot swap. It's USB-C, because everything's USB-C now. And most importantly, it is now VIA compatible. That means that, by default, a lot of these won't be bound when you get it. So just plug it into your computer, open up VIA, and you can start customizing the layout to be however you want. It's really simple. It's really easy. There's plenty of guides out there on how to use VIA, and it just makes it so you can customize this keyboard any way you want without having to bother with QMK or any programming or anything. So a question that gets asked a lot is, why would you want a keyboard this big? I mean, because it's this big, right? Look at it. It's big, it's beautiful, and it's utterly unique. There is nothing else out there quite like it. People call their workstation a battle station. It's not a battle station without one of these. This literally looks like something you could commit a war crime on. At the very least, you can use it as a personal defense weapon or a weight. This handle's solid. It's not going anywhere. But if you didn't want to use it as a weapon or a weight, and I'd advise you don't, there's other uses. I'm really excited to game on it. I play a lot of MMOs like World of Warcraft, and there's a lot of different spells, abilities, and hotkeys that get bound, usually to the same key, but control and then shift and control, shift and alt. I'm really looking forward to just bind them all up here and maybe get some sticky notes and labeling them all. I think that's going to be a really good idea. If gaming isn't your thing, then there's productivity. If you use Premiere or Photoshop or any program that uses a lot of different functions that you've got to click between a lot, you can have all of them having their own key labeled where you know it is, and that'll be really cool. My business partner Dave, he uses Excel a lot, and he's looking forward to having all his functions and all his formulas bound as macros on these different keys. So there's a lot you can do with it. Realistically, the great thing about the Hyper7 is that the limit is your creativity and your ingenuity. There's so much you can do with this keyboard. There's also Unicode. I don't know a whole lot about Unicode, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if you use Unicode, if you need more than the standard character set of a keyboard, this can work with Unicode. You can get it working with Windows and Mac and Linux, and you can use Unicode. So those are all the good thing about this keyboard. Now I'd like to mention a couple of bad things. It's an expensive keyboard, and I want to be very honest and upfront about what you're getting. There are only small things, but they're definitely worth mentioning. First, feet. So we couldn't really figure out what to do about feet. With a bent stainless steel case, there's not a whole lot you can do, and we didn't have any other ideas. So we've just gone with normal standard rubber bump-ons. There is nothing wrong with them. They do the job perfectly fine and you don't see them. But if you're into feet, and I don't mean it like that, I mean if you're into keyboard feet, there might be something nicer you could do. If you have any ideas or suggestions, let us know. We've got time to change things or add things, and if anyone has a good idea, we might incorporate it, as long as it doesn't increase the price too much. But just letting you know, the feet are a bit boring. And then the last thing is it's a pain in the ass to build. It is heavy. It's heavy. You've got two PCBs. It's bent stainless steel, so it's not very malleable. And you've got to screw it all in. And there's a lot of switches, a lot of stabilizers. It's a challenge. It's an ordeal, and it's a challenge. So I'm just letting you know to prepare yourself for that. Alternatively, you can pay us to build it. We will be offering assembly service. So if you don't want to go through this ordeal, we'll do it for you. I must mention, though, that assembly service will be first come, first served, with over 500 of these being sold, and half the people have signed up to assembly service. That could be like 250 of these we have to build. That's going to take a long time. So it might take a couple of months to get them all done. So if you really want it built, maybe get your order in early, because if you're ordering late, you're going to be at the end of the queue, and it's going to take a couple months before you get it. That is the good, that is the bad, that is the Hyper7. Now let's talk about what else you can buy during the group buy phase. The biggest problem with the Hyper7 has always been keycaps. It's a big keyboard, it's a funky layout, there's nowhere really that you can get keycaps for. There is one place, Pimp My Keyboards offer this beautiful DSA Ferris set that comes with a Hyper7 set. Two problems though. A, it's expensive, it's £250. If you're buying a keyboard this big, this expensive, you don't want to be breaking the bank again to buy keycaps for it. And second of all, they currently only do the old layout, the classic layout. We are working with them to try and get the modern layout done, but we don't have confirmation yet. But of course, it's ridiculously expensive. So we're trying to solve this by offering our own keycap set. It's going to be cheap. Cheap is the key word here. We've gone for a budget keycap set that offers all the possible layouts for the Hyper7, so that you don't have to spend another fortune on an already expensive keyboard just to be able to use it. It's only going to be black and white with some coloured accent pieces, but it will offer all the layouts you might want to use. So you just buy that keycap set, and when it all arrives, you can build it and use it on the day. Along with keycaps, there's stabilizers. If you're doing the 2 U's up here instead of 1 U's, then you're going to need, I think, 32 stabilizers. So we're going to offer stabilizers in bulk. We'll offer GMK, Duroc V2 and TX AP. We'll put a discount on it because that makes sense. It's cheaper for you and then you're more likely to buy from us, and that's just better for everyone. After stabilizers come switches. I think this needs, like, for the one new layout up here, this needs over 200 switches. Again, it makes sense. We just offer switches in bulk and then give it a discount, and it makes sense for both parties. Check the product page to see what switches we're offering with it. Only a select number. If you've got any you would really like to see, then you can make a request in the comments on this video or come into our Discord. If enough people request the same switch, then we will start selling that one as well. Lastly is the services. We are going to offer a stabilizer lubricating service because 32 stabilizers is a lot to lube. If you want to pay us to do it, we'll do it. Be warned, it will be quite expensive because it takes a long time to lube 32 stabilizers and a lot of lube, but we are offering that. Then there's the build service. As I've mentioned, it's going to be first come, first served. You will also need to buy switches and stabilizers for your build service. And then lastly, we're going to have a soldering service. So there is a little ribbon that needs to be soldered over here. It's 2 PCBs and they need to be connected. So it's just a little ribbon. It's really easy to solder if you want to do it yourself. However, if you don't want to do it, we'll just put a little £5 service and we'll solder it ourselves before sending it to you. We are also trying to get the factory to do that for us, so it'll all come pre-soldered over here. We don't have confirmation yet. So if you look at the product page when it goes live and that soldering service isn't available, just assume that it's coming pre-soldered. Which means when you're taking the PCBs out of the box, don't just yank one of the PCBs, because if they're connected, you'll break them and it's expensive PCB to replace. So we've got keycaps, stabilizers and switches, and you've got your services. That is everything that you can buy. That is the Hyper7. Before we go, there's just 2 more things that need to be mentioned before we can actually put the group buy live. Firstly, I would like everyone outside the UK who's ordering it to make sure you understand your tax laws. There's no proxies for this. We're going through, just selling it through our UK store. So please research your tax laws. If you're from the EU, you should be fine because we are now offering DDP, which means that you can pay all your tax and duty when you're checking out. So just check that when you're checking out, you see a little tax thing there and that's being added to your bill. If you're from the US, I believe America is an open port up to $800. So unless you're ordering 2, you should be fine. If you are crazy enough to order 2, you might want to make them 2 separate orders. For everyone else, please do your due diligence, research your country's laws, because it's an expensive keyboard. You are going to get taxed when you're importing it into your country. You'll want to make sure you know how much you're going to get taxed. So please do some research. And the very last thing is that for the first week of sales, we are going to disable PayPal. PayPal don't like group buys and they don't like pre-orders. They get panicky and they lock the money until you can prove that you've shipped the item. However, you can't ship the item until you've made it, and you can't make it until they release the money. It's a horrible situation, and it actually happened to us with the last Hyper7, and it almost ruined us. We managed to get through it, but we want to avoid that situation again. So for the first week, there will be no PayPal option for checking out. There will still be Google Pay, Apple Pay, and normal credit and debit card. If you really want to use PayPal, just wait 1 week and we will re-enable it. That should be everything. Sorry for such a long, talky video, but it's a big keyboard, it's an expensive keyboard. I want to make sure everyone knows exactly what's going on. All that's left now is to release this video and then launch the group buy. So thank you for sitting through all of this with me, and I will leave you with some clips of George and Harry's day out with their keyboards. Bye. All right, go on. All right, that's enough.